Okay, good morning. We're continuing with learning through the Orach HaShulchan, both mitzad Halachah and mitzad Penimius. We're up to Orach Chaim Siman Aleph, Sif Ches. In the last two seifim, the Orach HaShulchan talked about the yesod of Avas Hashem, right? He's in the middle of talking about yesodos, foundational concepts, context within which halacha needs to operate. Before he can talk about halacha, and before he's going to talk about halacha, halacha needs purpose, halacha needs reason, halacha needs an underpinning, an architecture before you put all of the pieces of the building in, so that you understand what purpose and what function the whole tarkulin, the whole palace is trying to achieve, and so that it can be constructed and decided and interpreted properly. And so he continues in Sif Ches, after talking about Avas Hashem, he now talks about Yiras Hashem. Now, we are commanded to fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be afraid of Hashem. Dichsiv, as it says, Es Hashem Elokecha Tira. V'zeh Lashon HaRambam, B'Sefer HaMitzvos Mitzvah Dalet. And this is what the Rambam says about this. He's going to spend now the rest of the Seif mostly quoting different parts of the Rambam to bring out a particular view of Yiras Hashem and the Yiras Hashem he's trying to get at. What he's going to explain is that we're going to start off by talking about Yiras Hashem in a fearful sense, in a dread sense, in terms of Yiras HaOnesh primarily. But eventually where he's going to take us is that Yiras Hashem is really, really much higher than that, or higher Yiras, a higher form or a higher sense of Yiras Hashem is going to be Yiras HaRomemus, which is a combination of both Ahava and Yiras HaOnesh, all wrapped into some deeper thing. So he says, V'zeh Lashon HaRambam, B'Sefer HaMitzvos Mitzvah Dalet. This is what the Rambam writes about Yiras Hashem in Sefer HaMitzvos Mitzvah Dalet. Shetzivanu laha'amin Yiraso Yis'ala Lifached Mimenu. We're supposed to trust in Hashem's fearsomeness and to be afraid of him. Lifached, to genuinely be afraid. Velonia kikofrim holchem b'shriras libam b'vekeri. Why are we supposed to be afraid? What's the purpose of this fear? The purpose of this fear is that we shouldn't be like the kofrim who go as they like, free and careless. They go this way, they go that way. B'shriras libam, in whatever way that their heart happens to be pulling them at any given moment. I feel this, so I go do that, and I feel that, and I go do this. I just react. I react to my feelings. I react to my impulses, and there's nothing weighing on me. There's no sense of obligation. There's no sense of meaning. There's no sense of purpose. There's no sense of being connected to anything bigger. It's just about me. It's just me, and I just do what I want. Avol nira biyiras ansho b'chol es. Rather than doing that, one should be in fear of punishment at every moment. That should weigh on you. One should be worried about and conscious of, if I do this, if I do that, if I do whatever I want, there are consequences. V'zehu amru es Hashem elokecha tira. This is the meaning of the pasuk when the pasuk says you should fear Hashem. Es Hashem elokecha tira. Fear Hashem. Ubechibura hagadol. Reish Perek Beis Me'Yisodei Torah Kasav. And in Mishnah Torah at the beginning of Perek Beis of Yisodei HaTorah, the Rambam expands on this. And he says, V'hechi aderech la'ahavo v'yiraso. How is it that we're supposed to come to love Hashem and to fear Hashem? This is a response, by the way the Aruch HaShulchan is framing this out. This is an expansion of the idea that the point of Yiras Hashem is to not feel like I'm an island. I am me and I can do whatever I want because nothing else really matters. I'm the only thing that really matters, and so whatever I feel at any given moment, or whatever I think, or whatever I want, or whatever it is, I just do, and there's no obligation, there's nothing tying me down, there's no sense of purpose, there's no sense of meaning, there's no sense of constraint. None of that matters because it's all me. That's all that matters. So now in Yisodei Torah, the Aruch HaShulchan, bringing this piece from Yisodei Torah, is going to explain or expand on how it is that Yiras Hashem counters that. And he says, Vehechi adarech la'avaso v'yiraso. What is the way that we come to love Hashem and to fear Hashem? Bisha sheyisbonin adam b'ma'asav u'vavorav haniflam hagadolim. When a person meditates and reflects on the creations and the actions, the amazing actions, the incredible creations, the massive, huge amount and quality of creation and action of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Yira Mehem Chachmaso, and through one's contemplation of those things, not just the natural world, not just biology, but chemistry and physics and psychology, understanding the makeup of the human being, how my emotions work, how my brain works, different phenomena, different forces, different ways, history, politics, all of the different chachmos, all of the different ways in which the world operates, all of the different forces and patterns that make the world work the way it does. Those are all nivraim, those are all creations, those are all phenomenon. Every phenomena is created. Every phenomenon is created. Those are nivraim. Those are reflections of how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is manhig es ha'olam. They are expressions, reflections, manifestation of his maisim. Reflecting on those things, one begins to see chachmaso. One begins to have a sense to see his wisdom, his chachma. Chachma, especially from the perspective of Penimei, is all about unity. Everything is batul, everything is unified within the mind of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all just one simple thing. But that one simple thought produces all of this. That chachma she'ein la erech v'lokate, that chachma has no analogy. That chachma has no limits and no definition. It's chachma. It's not bina. It's not gevura. It's not dinim and gevul. It's chachma. It's incomprehensibly unique. It is unbounded. It is undefined. It's all-encompassing. Miyad hu oev u'mishaveach u'mefar u'misav v'tayva gadola liyeda Hashem hagadol. Immediately, when one starts to contemplate this kind of thing, and of course, Sifrei Penimei, Hasidus, Kabbalah, all over the place, they're full of meditations, thought exercises, forms of hisbonenus, like the Rambam says over here, forms of hisbonenus to really get into and appreciate what it is that I'm experiencing when I experience and encounter the world around me. The nivraim and the maisim, the reflections and manifestations of the reality and the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that I have access to. I don't have access to the chachma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I have access to the consequences, the physical manifestations, the physical expressions of the chachma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How can I be misboning on those things and get a sense, therefore, of the enormity, the incomprehensibility of this chachma? Immediately, what happens? I begin to love, and I begin to praise, and I begin to exalt. And this all leads to Mitzava Taiva Gedola. It produces a deep, deep craving, a need, Liyeda Hashem HaGadol, to know what this thing is. What is this that I'm encountering? I don't know what I'm encountering. It's incomprehensible. Ein la erech. Ein la erech means I can't comprehend it. I can't put words to it. I can't. We know things through comparison to other things. That's how we know things. I know what hot is, I compare it to cold. I know blue because I compare it to red. Contrast. I know day in contrast to night. Contrast is the way we comprehend anything. I can't comprehend HaKadosh Baruch Hu because there is no basis for contrast. It's sui generis. It's outside of all categories, locates. It has no limits. It has no definition. And therefore, it's beyond comprehension. And so what do I want to do? I want to comprehend. What's comprehension? Comprehension is Liyeda Hashem Hagadol. What's a name? A name is a way that we refer things to give ourselves a hasaga, to give ourselves a kli, to be able to comprehend something about that thing. The thing itself is much bigger than the name. It's much more complex than the name. But the name contains within it, somehow, the name contains within it a full conceptualization of that thing. It communicates enough about the thing. It relates to enough of our conceptions and ideas and definitions of the thing so that we are able to refer to the thing, but it contains much more than that as well. And so I use the name, and I don't have to fully comprehend the whole thing, because the name encompasses the whole thing. So what do I want to know? When I start contemplating this chachma she'ein la erech, the locates, I deeply, deeply yearn to know, what is the name of this thing? What is its definition? What is the thing that will allow me to cognize it and attach to it through some referent, a name that I can grasp and use and relate to? Kamosha Amar David, this is what David says, Sama nafshi, my soul is thirsty, right? Misava taiva gadola, I'm yearning, I need thirst. Thirst is the worst thing in the world. It's the deepest, when you're thirsty, it's brutal. You need the drink. Sama nafshi, my soul is thirsty, not my body, my soul is thirsty. Leilokim lekelchai. Ukishemachashe b'dvar ma'elu, and when a person thinks about these things, miyad hu nisra'eh la'achorav, immediately a person recoils backwards. You get blown away. You get blown away. You recoil backwards. V'yira, you fear. V'yafached, and you fear. You're terrified. V'yodea, and you know, shehu beria katana shifla afela omedas bedas kala muetes lifnei tamim deos, that you are just a tiny, tiny, insignificant, minor little creature. Omedas bedas kala, with a very light, very weak comprehension of anything. Lifnei tamim deos, in front of, in relation to, before the wholeness of all deos, the wholeness of all knowledge, the wholeness of all awareness. You recoil backward in the sense of tzimtzum. You recoil backward in the sense of or choser. I think I'm big. I think I'm something. I think that I can just go b'shriras libi ubekeri, just free, and because I have no obligations, I'm not responsible for anything. I just do what I want because I want it. If I want it, it's fine and it's good, and it doesn't matter who it impacts or why it impacts or what happens as a result. There's nothing constraining me because I'm me. Immediately, when one thinks about this, when one engages in this hisbonenus exercise, this meditative exercise about the enormity, that leads me to an awareness of the enormity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even just the chachma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is only a part or an aspect, immediately I recoil backwards. I'm expanding outwards because I'm so big and I'm so important and I matter so much and I can do whatever the heck I want, but I recoil backwards. I withdraw inwards because no, I can't. I'm little, I'm tiny, I'm insignificant, I don't matter. In front of that thing which fills everything, I get squeezed into a tiny little box. There's nothing, and the weight weighs down on me. The weight weighs down on me, and now I can't help but walk around b'pachad u'v'yira, and with awareness, koved rosh, that there's something going on over here. And I can't just do whatever I want. So this is how we get Yira producing a counteraction to this idea of kekofrim halachim b'shriras libo mubekeri. Yiras Hashem, which is produced by this method of hisbonenus on the reality of the world around us and the enormity of the chachma that produces it, which can't be comprehended, and so on and so forth, makes me realize how insignificant, tiny, and small I am. Ani afar ve'efer, which is one of the important things we have to keep in mind. Ani afar ve'efer, then I don't do whatever I want because my sense of gaavah, my sense of yeshus, my sense of I fill all worlds and I am everything and I can do whatever I want because nothing else matters, that goes away. Kamosha Amar David, this is as David said, Ki era shemecha, when I see your name, ma'aseh etzbosecha, when I see the work of just your finger, one finger, just one finger, that's all I need. Ma enosh ki tizkerenu. I wonder, what is man? What is a human being that they should matter in any way, shape, or form? And so we don't matter. Not that we don't matter in the sense of nothing we do matters and therefore we can do whatever we want, because that entails a sense of bigness on my part. Not that. But what do I matter in the sense of I want this, I want that, I want to do this, I want to do that, that disappears. That's Yiras HaOnesh. That's not so nice. It's important. It's important and an important counter to gaavah, but that's Yira. That's Yiras HaOnesh. Now he goes on and he quotes from Sefer Mitzvos. The Aruch HaShulchan now continues because we don't want to stop with Yiras HaOnesh. And he's not going to stop with Yiras HaOnesh. Yiras HaOnesh is just a building block. Just like the idea of Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim is just a building block for Devekus on a higher level, where I'm not just doing because there's someone up there telling me what to do and he's bigger and badder than I am, so I have to listen. Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shemayim, the king says jump and I say how high because he's the king, and I better listen. That's a building block for something much deeper. Real Devekus, real Bittul. Likewise, Yiras HaOnesh becomes a building block for something much deeper, much higher. Ube Sefer HaMitzvos Bir, in Sefer HaMitzvos, the Rambam goes on to explain. He says, Yira Peshuta She Yiras HaOnesh. This is Yira Peshuta. This is simple Yira. Unsophisticated Yira. It's not a bad thing. Pashtus is important sometimes. Rabbi Nachman says all the time, Pashtus, Pashtus, Pashtus. Avoda Peshuta is very, very valuable. Unsophisticated. Without cheshbonos and this and that, because it takes me out of my own head. That's very valuable, and that's exactly what this does. This Yiras HaOnesh, this Pashut Yiras HaOnesh, it tamps down my gaavah. That's very valuable. Uvakan bir Yiras HaRomemus, but the Rambam goes on and says, and now we're going to explain Yiras HaRomemus. Yiras HaRomemus is not Yiras HaOnesh. Yiras HaRomemus is not, I'm afraid of you because I don't want to be struck by lightning bolts and for you to ruin my earthly life, my guf. Yiras HaRomemus is something much deeper. It's a consciousness, a profound, deep consciousness of the massiveness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'al zeh shaninu b'sifri. This is what it says in the Sifri. Ein l'cha ava b'makom yira. There's no ava on the face of yira. The yira b'makom ava. And there's no yira in the face of ava. Ella b'midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'vad. The only place where we find ava and yira coexisting with each other is within the midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Things that I fear, I can't love. To the extent that I fear them, I can't love them because I'm living in fear. Ava is chesed. Ava is expansive. I can't be expansive and I can't be giving and I can't engage with the chesed of Ava if I'm living in fear and I'm stuck in a little box of Yiras HaOnesh and trembling and I can't move, right? I can't engage in Ava if you've destroyed every sense of self through Yiras HaOnesh, as the Rambam said earlier, right? That I'm nothing. Yira v'yafachid v'yodeshu beria katana shefela afela omedes bedas kala mu'uta lifnei tamim. I'm nothing and I don't matter at all. That's impossible. That's impossible then to produce any ava, to the extent that it's there. And likewise, in the place where there's ava, it crowds out the yira. Kilomar, what does this mean? The yira of ava him shnei hafachim. Yira and ava are two opposites of each other. Chachma and bina. Chesed and gevura, they're opposites of each other. Ava is expansive. Ava is giving. Ava is connecting. Yira is small and constrained and constricting and dividing, separating. Yira separates me and you. There's you and there's me, and I'm afraid of you. I fear you. That creates a disconnect between us. We're not connected. Not bekesher nafshi, we're not connected. Ava is the opposite. Ava and Yira are shnei hafachim. Ela b'Yiras HaRomemus shapir yecholim shneim lios. But within the experience of Yiras HaRomemus, both are present at the same time. Yiras HaRomemus is a bechin of kesser. Yiras HaRomemus is a sense of something much higher, something that somehow is able to hold shnei hafachim, two opposites, a paradox in and of themselves, where everything can exist all at once. Because through the amazing Romemus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, misyara mimenu, I am in awe, Yiras Hama'ala, Va'avaso b'chol lev v'chol nefesh. The fear that I experience in Yiras HaRomemus is not fear, trembling, smallness, and stuck. And it's b'shvili nivra ha'olam. Wow, that's a much bigger thing. And so here again, the Aruch HaShulchan is emphasizing to us two forms of Yiras HaOnesh, Yiras HaRomemus. Yiras HaOnesh is a building block to get me to Yiras HaRomemus, but when I get to Yiras HaRomemus, I'm able to now combine the experience of both Ava and Yira in the same experience at the same time. And that is an experience of kesser, that's an experience of living within paradox and living within something, an experience that somehow combines shnei hafachim, two opposites all at once. That's a real connection. That's a real connection and deveikus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only place where there's bilti gavul b'gavul, where there's infinity contained with infinitude, where there's paradox that somehow manages to coexist in a way that eludes our human understanding. That, by definition, is now deveikus HaKadosh Baruch Hu.